Hi, this is Debbie, and this is Light Up Your Worth. I'm so excited that you're here with me today. I
I'm
have,
excited to be here
yeah,
too.
right? I have my guest, Tina. Oh my gosh, Tina, there I went. Okay,
That's
I
okay.
was being too silly.
Tina Karagulian.
And Tina is a sound healer, an artist, a collage facilitator, and a Kundalini yoga. Did I get it right?
Yes, you
Instructor.
did. Yes.
And she offers clarity guidance sessions, stress release yoga, contemplation art experiences for women. And what's really fun is she actually brings in fun, goofiness. So if you hear us laughing and doing different things, she does that as she does her transformation work that thrives. So welcome, Tina.
So grateful that you invited me, Debbie. Thank you so much. And welcome to everyone who's here joining our time together. We were making lots of weird sound effects before, so maybe we need to get some out of our system.
Right?
Sound healing can come in many forms.
Right, like, oh,
Yeah.
that's just so powerful. So how can it be like if people think, oh, spirituality is like so serious sometimes, and yet we have this fun that's just wanting to break out. And just
Yes.
sound healing, tell us more about just sound. How does sound healing connect in with that goofy or playfulness? And
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was thinking about all the times that I did that as a kid, and we didn't think about it. We'd just be outside making weird sounds. Did you ever do that where, I don't know, when my sister and I, my younger sister and I, we used to like talk with a different voice, you know? But we're really toning and we didn't even know it, right?
uh-huh.
So I think it's important to use sound and really open up the throat chakra. So if you're going to do a lot of truth telling, you got to be able to do it with just, any sound that wants to come, low, high, wacky sounds. You can do it with mantra. You can do it with singing, anything you want to sing.
Oh, I never even thought about that. I was thinking, did I make funny noises? I probably did make funny noises as a kid. I do know, though, there's proof that I was goofy because I would make all these bizarre poses. The whole crazy
Yes.
pose, the side leg thing with
Yes.
this was like early 1970s. Like there was no selfies back then. There was no like how everybody
Oh,
poses now.
but
Like
your body
it was
knew what to
goofy.
do, right?
Yeah.
We have to get back to that and not be self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
Our little inner kid who wants to have fun.
Yeah, it does. I know I like to have fun, and I really have been drawn to sound healings over the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years. I've done a few, of course, minus the pandemic stuff, but it's just so calming. It like
It is.
I can't even describe what that feels like. The how would you describe it? That frequency feeling.
So how I've understood it, because I have a Venus gong. It's a gong that I play in all different ways, which brings in whale and dolphin sounds. And it's like I call in all the angels and they sing through it. And then I have a crystal bowl and some Tibetan bowls. And all together, what it does is it gets you out of your mind, because our mind has a certain database, right? And it pings for certain things. Oh, I had that experience. Blah, blah, blah. But you need. That's why sometimes you don't want to have a song that you necessarily know that you're just constantly repeating. But to get out of your mind, the sound healing goes and just takes you out of your mind and allows for a deeper healing and integration and a weaving to happen. It's beautiful.
Oh,
And it's just awesome. So if you do some deep release work or emotional crying or whatever, and then you do some sound healing, it just goes, ooh, it just kind of integrates it for you. And it's like, I don't know, like a many sessions in one.
oh.
It just feels so good.
Now, would that translate when you were saying that and you were talking about the Venus gong about how it can bring in like dolphins? I instantly saw where I was in uh Kona. I went to Kona, I think 2013, so it's been a few years.
Kona is
And
where?
Kona,
Where?
Hawaii,
Oh, I love
went
Hawaii.
on one of the islands, and it's more of I think a lot of healing happens on that particular island.
Yes.
And one of my dreams that I had wanted to do was to swim with dolphins. And so I
Mm.
was part of a very like private kind of boat and went out and was able to, the dolphins um swum with us, right? Like they followed us, like this part
Yeah.
of it where they know where to go. And the captain said later was that he had never had they had never had so many dolphins follow a boat. And I said, well, they came to talk to me, right? So when I
Oh
was
my
in the
God.
water,
Oh my God.
like,
You're my sister. There's just, I'll tell you something. Finish your story.
yeah. So we went out there, and then we were underwater, and how it relates to this Venus gong was that I was swimming with these dolphins, right? These are wild dolphins, and
Wow.
the whales were close, where when you would put your head under, you could hear the whales singing and the
Oh my
dolphins.
God. You heard that.
And I heard it, right? Like they felt they were so close. And I think I was in this time of the year, and it was in February, right? 2013 that I went. And it was so healing. Like
Oh,
I can't even really hardly describe that feeling of hearing, because that's the time of the year where the moms have the babies, and they
yeah.
will go and they will leave the babies close to the boats, because they have to turn off their motors, the boats, when the babes and the moms are so close. And so the what the captain's stories were was that they get close because they know that they're safe, and they kind of leave the babies to be babysat by the
Oh
boats.
my God, that's so beautiful. They're so wise. The dolphins and whales are just so wise. They're here for us. They are so beautiful. Ah.
And I thought, oh, when you were
Oh,
talking about being able to bring that in with sound with the Venus gong, I thought, wow. I mean, that image just came really clear. So being able to have that experience
I
again
went to
by
Hawaii this
simply,
past year and I called them in. I called them into the gong. I said, please just infuse your Hawaii goodness into here. And I called in the whales and the dolphins. And I know when I play it, the gong now, that they're there. They're automatically always there. And I do make one sound with it that sounds like a whale. And
oh,
whales are my totem that I always wanted to swim with, but I will at some point. But
you
one
will.
time I went on a whale watch with with my son, and it was a research ship out of Boston, and they had been tracking certain whales, and there's one whale named Cajun, and she was breaching and kept coming up out, and I was squealing with delight because it's one of my main animal totems, and so I just ran out there, and she just kept going, and then later on, the researcher came and she said, "We have been tracking Cajun for a while, but she never breaches that much. She breached out of control today." I said, "Well, she came to see me."
Yes, right.
Oh, thank you. I was just laughing because I've told that story before. And the lady was like, "Uh-huh, sure, honey. Yeah, yeah." But I knew in deep in my heart because they sing. They make clicking sounds like the dolphins, and they have a way of communicating. And I think they're here for us on the planet too, to raise our vibration. And so all sound healing does, it raises our vibration, brings us joy. That's why we need to protect their voice just as much as ours, right? And not hurt the sonar, the way they communicate under the water. But they are wise beings that came to the planet for us to bring joy. Dolphins are all about
Mhm.
joy, but when those whales breach, you know what? I always get this image of this huge and heavy being being able to lift up out of the comfort of the water and ex- just be playful and with glee. You know, I don't know. It's just such an image that we can overcome anything that's heavy and emerge
Yeah,
and almost fly out.
right.
But
Yeah,
they show it can be effortless if we bring our hearts into it.
yeah, I think it really shows too, as any of us come against something that's uncomfortable, that you are able to even push through what's comfortable for us, and just be able to really expand ourselves, not hold ourselves back. And
Yes.
I know that you really help women with, their creativity and finding really their own truth.
Yes.
S-
Yes. So the creativity is, I hold space for it. I'm an artist myself, but when I have gatherings around my collage classes, um, my collage, the collage and the meditations that I offer are an opening to your creativity valve. So you could be a writer, you could be a poet, you could be any kind of visual artist, or maybe expressive artist. And through the vehicle of together as a group, because all of us women, when we gather, or any men and women, I have some, multiple, you know, groups of all beings coming, but what happens is we support each other. We're like the dolphins and the pods and and the whales, where we hold space together. And so what happens is suddenly, naturally, this thing opens up, and then something flows. So I've had a lot of writers come in and say, I'm not into art, but I'm doing this collage. And then, oh my God, my writing started just exploding. And because we're all creative beings, and we sometimes get stuck. And it could be anything that makes us stuck, but it's just bringing us back to our empowerment, our ability to do that. So I hold space for that with music, with sound healing. Sometimes I'll do breath, but then we call in all of our guides. But we always come back inside here, like that, through all my offerings. It's bringing us back to our wise, empowered queen self, if you're a woman and want to identify that way, just to really say we have it all in us. And so there are still parts of us that ping outward. I talk about this in the class that we'll be talking about later, this gut and goosebumps class. We have octopus tendrils that sometimes are coming from this like pattern place, a
Mhm.
shadow place. You don't even know you're doing it, and you're like looking for something outside of you. That's not to say that you can't collaborate and have fun with the other people, like the dolphins and whales do in your pod. But I'm looking for something that only I can give myself, right? And it's so unconscious when we do that. And so it's letting go and untangling from some of those patterns so that we can come back, re-nourish from the inside, right? And then we can play and collaborate, but we're not doing it from an unconscious, suffering place that's pulling us down, right? And things are going away. Luckily, we're
Mhm.
releasing these patterns, but yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that too when we come together. Sometimes, depending on what group you're working with, where you can really feel the difference in the vibe when people are coming from a place of wholeness, a
Right.
place of, oh, let's work and collectively rise our and increase our vibration. As we collaboratively, it's then pulls out something with you, and it pulls out something with me, and it just raises us
Exactly. It's the two or
versus,
more are gathered.
yeah,
Beautiful
yeah.
saying. We've heard of that saying before, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so relevant to anybody's group or tribe that they're in, that when you meet people that are of the equal exchange of energy kind of vibration, and that's not a judgment when I say that. Like, it's not like someone's better than someone else, but it's like once you've achieved a certain level of wholeness, and it doesn't mean you have to be perfect and already there, but your sisters and brothers who are at that place will just kind of support and hold you in a different way.
Yeah. And I want to kind of talk about that for a moment, because I think sometimes we've done the work, right? We've done work, we've looked at patterns, and then we have some type of transition where we do some changes because life is constantly evolving for everyone.
Right.
And we might fall into that, well, I can't really reach out to my community because I'm not feeling right. Like, our vibration can shift, right, on a day-to-day basis
Right.
to a point, but it's not going to, and just even being gentle with ourselves when we're in those places more in the, whether you
Yes.
call it the shadow work or the subconscious
Yeah.
work, or, and have you found that to be true as well? I mean,
I want to speak to that because I know that in a lot of spiritual circles, you know, what we're trying to do is let go of judgment, right? And our
mhm,
self judgment, like, oh, I'm not there because suddenly I need to like go into my cave and do some inner deep work. And I've heard people say, you know, before that you have to maintain your vibration. And I think that's true. But I think if you're needing to go into a really difficult place and you're not really talking to people, and it's not an easy place to go. That is so courageous, and I don't want anyone to ever feel like there's something wrong with you when you have to do those inner spiral places, because you're cultivating something that's the gold that Jung talks about, and it's just it's so courageous to be that vulnerable. I just want to really honor that. I have had moments like that. You know, we talk about speaking your truth, but until you have integrated something fully enough, you can't talk about it yet.
mhm.
And sometimes I have an awareness of something that I'm trying to speak to, but I can't yet. I just can't. The words aren't there yet because I have to go into this dark inner place within me to be nourished, to transform. Um, and I can't force. It's like going into the cocoon, right? Like a caterpillar.
Mhm.
You've often heard that. Um, we can't push ourselves out of that too soon. You can't force the caterpillar to become a butterfly. That's your judgment. And if someone else is doing that to you, it's important to say, you know, this is what I need right now. This is not a judgment of you or your process, but I can't, I don't have a bandwidth here to give more, and and not to judge that. It's
Mhm.
really, really, really important.
I agree. I find it that it's a couple things kind of blended together, which is like understanding that we need boundaries on what we understanding what boundaries are for ourselves to be able
Yes.
to be our best selves. And that doesn't mean every moment of every day we're our best selves. I mean, that's ideally like where we'd all like to be. And but understanding that self-judgment of where we are, like it's tough when you're in those the stages, right? But I think everybody
Uh-oh.
has them. The world's changing right now pretty dramatically, and we're
Yes.
changing, the earth is changing.
And it's going at a more rapid pace, excuse me, so that it's just like,
Mhm.
oh, now I'm here. And then tomorrow I'll be like, ah, you know.
Yeah. Right? Like staying grounded is definitely more challenging these days. But I think
Yeah.
when we begin a cycle of that whole, you know, truth finding for ourselves, that it requires, at least I believe, I'd love to hear what you think too, is that it requires some alone time. It requires that ability to say, you know, I need more rest this week. I need
Yes.
to really be careful with who I'm interacting with. Not that, not that anybody's bad or good, there's no judgment,
Exactly. There's
but
no
just
judgment.
understanding I need more time to myself.
And I've had that my whole life, and you know, I always said, oh, you know, I'd be laid up for weeks sometimes in bed, and I knew I was doing this inner processing. I mean, for like 30 years, I've been to go in and out, and I noticed that I'm a very different bird than other people because I would suddenly do that deep inner work, and I couldn't talk, and people would expect me to like do that, and I couldn't. And I found out that my rhythm was important, and to embrace and know your rhythm and to be able to articulate that to someone else takes time to cultivate,
Mhm.
you know. Um, you know, we're going to talk more about the gut and goosebumps class that I have, which is all about yeses and nos. Really looking at all the yeses and nos and how they play out for you. What is your body rhythm? How does your body give you clues? And and to be able to say, I'm okay when someone says no to me. And I'm also okay when I need to say no to someone else. Can we actually embody that with grace? I'm still learning this myself. So everything I do, I teach, I'm learning. But I know that there are times when if I can't articulate it and someone cannot hear that I need that space, then I need to really um, set maybe more of a boundary around that person who just cannot receive the level of support that that I require. And it's not that I'm asking them to do it, but to have someone at least be able to respect when we go into these inner states. You need to be around people you can talk to when you're in that state, because it's very vulnerable. It's very, very vulnerable.
It is. I have found during these periods of times, these transitions, right? And I kind of was laughing to myself of like transition. It seems like it's one transition after another, but some transitions are much more vulnerable than others, especially if
Yeah,
you've had a loss of a
totally.
relationship or a move or a job loss or a death or divorce, financial struggles, or if you
Totally.
have more than one or two at the same time, I mean, you could really get hit with them, and been able to not be afraid to have those boundaries, and even forgiving yourself, kicking away that judgment. And
Totally.
yeah. So
Well,
I want to hear more too about, we've kind of danced around the guts and goosebumps wisdom, right? That is kind of like birth through. And I want to hear more about what that is. Let's jump into that.
well, that was 1 week of an 8-week collage class that I just taught, and then I just knew it had to be broken down a lot more. Because I realized that, you know, a lot of times, if we've been too codependent or we were brought up where we had to say yes to everything to be a nice girl or a nice boy or a good spiritual person, right? That we may override our body's yes or no in other areas. We are almost like gaslighting ourselves or not asking consent of ourselves first. Like, all right, body, what do you think? Should we do this? And we automatically say yes to something because of a conditioning or a family patterning or societal patterning. And if we can slow down, that's one of the great things about going inward in our little inner caterpillar places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is learning to try to slow down and listen to what our body or our intuition or our inner guidance is really telling us. Or even our angels. Sometimes we can't hear them because we're going at the speed of light. And
Yeah.
I do that too. That's
Right.
part of the creative
Mm-hmm.
process, but to go, okay. So what I noticed was that in my life, my body would often say, I don't have a good feeling about this. Like the Star Wars quote, I don't have a good feeling about this. Right? But we
Yes.
go, but I want to please that person. So I'll override that. This doesn't feel good. Or someone wants to hug me, and you know what? I don't feel comfortable with that person hugging me. And I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to practice saying that boundary or that no, right? Um, and I found that I think we need help with practicing that in a small group or a class and find out some scripts or to even expose what our yeses and nos are, to
Mm-hmm.
know what my body does. Like yours, Debbie, might do something different. Like I know, like if something's a no for me, I start getting a little pit in my stomach and nauseous in my gut. That's how I get. You might get something totally different. And to be able to slow down and go and make a chart and go, oh, when this happens, then that's what my body's trying to tell me. But
Yeah.
like you might get goosebumps when something is hell yes, right on, and it could be like many different yeses. Like it could be like, ooh, something I just said is true, or something someone has said is true, and we're like really pinging that yes together. I've had it where like I've had a loved one from the other side talking to me and I'm saying the words they're going to say to someone else that needed to hear it. And I get the
Mhm.
goosebumps so I know it's right as I'm saying it. It's my body's way of giving me clues, right? And so the important is to identify what those are for us and then be able to tell someone, when they say, hey, do you want to join this group or do you want to do this? And you might feel a yes and a no together, and you're like, okay, my body's telling me this. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of this uh, uncomfortable, but there's some part of me is kind of excited. So I let me get back to you, and then you explore more about what's going on, like what's happening. Is it your inner child freaking out about something? Is it this? Is it that you need? It's a yes, but wait a little bit first before you do a full commitment, but we don't ever give ourselves the time to identify those yeses and nos.
So how do we, like everybody's listening going, well, what does that mean? Right? Like, so what if we just did a simple little, something simple and just try to like identify one thing? Because when you're talking about like goosebumps, I
Right,
get full on goosebumps when I know I'm connected to divine. And
right,
I know I'm getting an answer that is from my spirit team,
right.
my angels, God really is like confirming, yeah, like that's for me, the whole out body feeling of the whole goosebumps. And it usually has to do with somebody else. Like I can see if you're talking about, you know, doing something and some new truth that you have found about yourself, I get full on goosebumps.
So you're affirming, like, as a witness to my truth when you get
Yes.
that body thing, right?
Yes. Yep.
And you have it with your best friends, right? Or the people you're close to who, you know, you can see things together, maybe in a vision, you might feel things together, you know.
Yeah. Some of it, and some of it could be I could just have met you and we're talking in the grocery store and you're
Yes,
telling me about something that you're creating and I'll see it. I'll feel
exactly.
it too. I'll see it like a
Right.
little TV camera, like them doing it.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. I had a friend in Virginia who's a dear friend, and we never lived near each other, but she's one of my main friends. And she always knows if I'm having a hard time to call me. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
that parents do that with their kids too, right? They have that feeling like, I need to pray for my kid right now. I feel like something's going on. I don't know what it is, right? Um, but you might see something or to affirm, well, my friend, she had said, I just see you in the palm of God's hand, like just held. And she didn't know that someone gave me a pin of just that image.
Oh.
And then I got it again. So it was like three times I got this like affirmation from God
Hmm.
that I'm held in his hand. And this time it was a his. I have a divine mother, obviously, that I also call upon, but it was that the Father God was saying, I got you, girl. But she was able to affirm that with me based on her guidance system. And that was this beautiful sharing we got to have together.
Oh, that is that's wonderful. So being able to slow down enough to understand our bodies, yes and no's. I
Yes.
mean, I'm curious to hear. I wonder how many people who are listening can truly tune into their body for that yes or that no.
And
That's mhm.
we might go too fast or we get too much in on our heads. And I developed this incredible mind that I have, and then I learned late in life that I have to like come down into the heart and the mind, and I can go at the speed of light and I can find patterns, and I make people tired from that. And I've learned that sometimes that part of me was like, this looks like a great opportunity, but it's coming from here. My mind is going,
Uh-huh.
this looks like a great opportunity given everything we've done before from our database. Right?
Yep,
That's my
right. Yep.
sound. That's my sound healing in my mind talking. This is how we do it here. This is, dude, say yes to this. And then I hadn't even checked with my heart. I hadn't even checked with my body. And I still have to catch myself when I'm like, logically, that seems like a really good thing. But did all of me say yes? No, maybe not. And invariably, I've had to backpedal and, so, and there's no judgment of it because I think you talk about the grounding because things are happening so fast and furious now. We need opportunities to ground and slow down and pause and go, whoa, what does my heart say? What does my body say? And that might change, for different seasons of your life. Your body might give you different clues, right?
Hmm.
Like I've had people in a spiritual awakening. I mean, their diet changes for a while because their body is changing, and you're always having to listen to your body's wisdom, right? What is it saying? Like today, I'm a vegetarian for 10 years, but today I want to eat meat. It's like you listen, and the whole point is always come back to you. What is your body and your process telling you, and to put that above everyone else's always. You never, completely trust everyone else's wisdom over yours. And
Hmm.
that's I think we're going through a phase of really anchoring our inner wisdom. Not that we negate what other people, I mean, some people spend their lives on certain things that we need their wisdom and what they've cultivated. I'm not saying that. But have both talking, right?
Yes.
Say which is true. Is this true for me? Is that true for me? Is this true for me? And have both of them when you're looking at it from all those angles, and then you come up with your final. It's like
Hmm.
you have your own little circle of wise people, right, inside of you, and you just confirm. So, what do you think, body? What do you think, inner child? What do you think, heart?
Yes.
And there's a divine mind too that is neutral and compassionate and loving and can take all of that information and say, I think this is the best option for you.
Yeah, I think I would have um, saved myself a lot of pain, or I wouldn't say missteps because there was always lessons to be
Always.
learned,
Oh,
right? Like I don't see even the hardships that I've put myself through
yeah.
from not listening to that. So I think through, like, this really massive life transition that I've been in the middle of, at least since this podcast's been around, right? Like, it's been, I think I'm 2 or 3 years into it now with this next phase that's kind of developing. And part of that was that I think in each of these major transitions is that what I should have done at the beginning of them was to slow myself down
Yeah.
and really listen. And so I can seriously go back over the last 20 years, especially, and say on a decision where I felt that I might have slowed down, but I used my brain only. I
Right.
didn't listen to the whole counsel of within myself,
Right.
and I still move forward knowing that something wasn't right. For me, it is in my gut too. And, something wasn't right and it was off. And I just thought, no, 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 you're, self judge
Right.
myself, or I
Right.
wanted to meet the expectations of somebody else. And then you discover you never can really meet those expectations of
Yeah.
somebody else. We have to really slow down. I think it's so powerful, right? Like
It's such
how
an
much we could
intricate
solve
process.
ourselves. Uh-huh.
No, and I think the whole point is that the more we bring awareness, the time that, like, you might be in the same situation again and again, and then you reduce the time that you suffer, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you might practice it, and then that person is really helping you. These hard teachers, and I've had them, girl, I've had them, where they test you, and then you're like, oh, Oh, I just overrode my wisdom. I think I can back out of this after a day of after saying yes instead of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just cut yourself some slack because we're all learning these things at a faster rate. And the more, and then there'll be a point where like, I don't even need to say yes to that because I automatically know in my body that that's not what I
Yeah.
need to do. But until we learn that, we're going to have a little messy. It's okay. Don't judge yourself. But when two people are wounded, though, because we have also shadow places that we don't even know what's going on inside of us, right? Um, your inner child might feel like they're going to die. And I've been there. And that is real. I'm not going to take that away. This I'm going to die feeling is often that a part of you is untangling, right? Like your inner child goes, I love my mom or dad or whatever, or somebody, and I'm supposed to do this thing to show I love them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't do this, then I don't love them anymore, right? It's a very black and white. That part of you that learned that got confused, right? Innocent, right? Be loving. It's a little kid, right? So to untangle that, the little kid's like, am I going to die? Are you going to leave me? Am I going to be abandoned if I let go of this pattern? If I'm supposed to do this pattern. I'm supposed to do this pattern. The addictive parts of us, right? That
Mm-hmm.
that want to say yes to something, or our octopus tendril goes out. I'm like it, or is needy. It's that little child that goes, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be left all by myself. And you have to immediately, in that stopping and pausing, before you judge yourself or the person or the process, go, what do you need, sweetheart? What do you need? You're not going to die. I'm right here. And you call in all your angels. You call in all of that. And you tend to that little one. And you let that one cry. You help to integrate and weave, just like with the sound healing. We're weaving with our wise self with this part of us that learned something that might have been a family pattern for eons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are unraveling really, really hard patterning in our collective selves. So giving yourself the time to go, I'm freaking out, I can't talk, I'm so scared. And you might really feel like you're going to die. How many times have I been into that place where I thought I was going to die?
Yeah.
And then you say, what do you need to? Okay, let's just rest. Let's take a bath. The basic stuff you would do for a little kid. You're like, did we eat yet today? Let's get a nice meal. Let's go to your nice restaurant or whatever it is, if you can go out, that is, right? Or you might just feed yourself, take a nice bath, have some hot drink, like, certain rituals that are your self care. And then what happens is you say, see, you didn't die, honey. It's okay. And you can help undo that fear and that pattern for that, and then keep that love, and you reinforce that love because you said, I know you just wanted to love that person, but I got you, girl, or I got you, and so what happens is it brings in the self-love. You become more empowered, you become more grounded in yourself, and so then you know that whenever you get that freak out place, come in, let's see, just come back in, just come back. What do you need? I want to share a story with you about Archangel Michael. Because the beginning of this
Yes.
process,
Yes.
it was all about the
Yes.
I'm gonna die thing. Okay,
Oh yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
I
say
love Archangel Michael. He's my bud.
he's the protective archangel who has a sword to cut through illusions and to help you with those patternings. And when at the beginning of my journey, I called upon him and I'm like, Michael, come, can you cut this out? And he's like, got it, Tina, got it. And then there was this moment where I said, and it was around the collage blueprint that I teach, I did it in this new way where I teach something anyway, so I was so happy, so content. I said, oh God, your will, not mine be done. That famous phrase where you're
Hmm.
really giving up your free will to say, I want to do what my path is, right? You're basically saying, I'm ready to do it now. I'm speaking it. I'm using my words. And then all this shit happened. And it happens. I read so many stories of other people who've had it where they see some gnarly, beasty, scary thing if you're visual, you know. How many people I've read, they go through this process. It's the beginning of their empowerment, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had that. And I'm visual, but man, I've never seen such scary beings spitting and scary. And I realize now that they were some of my patterns, some of my fears, all rolled up in this visual, right? But you could feel it. It was like it was pulling me down. I was on the ground. I couldn't even move. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I swear to God, I did. And I think it was the beginning of my heart opening. And I had so much shit on my heart, man. It took layers. We're talking years of pulling off layers of stuff. But for 3 days, I would be like slammed, like I couldn't move. And I'm like, and I said at one point, if I have to go to the hospital, I'll go to the hospital. But let me know, is this of spirit or is this, physical? And I got really clear that it was a spiritual, it was a process that I had to like face. But still, it was scaring me to death because they were like, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you. We're going to kill you. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, where the hell is Michael? Where the hell is Jesus? These are all my peeps. I'm like, normally they're here. And I'm like, what's happening? And then all of a sudden, I heard Archangel Michael going, psst. So these beings are here. And then I hear, psst, like someone's giving you the, like at a play, when you forget your lines, someone's like, let me just tell you what the lines are, right? And I'm like, where the hell have you been? I was like, where? You're supposed to do this for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's time for you to be empowered and you need to use your voice. And so then it just came, and he goes, well, and then he said jokingly, well, are you dead yet, Tina? To make me laugh in the middle of this terrifying moment. And then he's like, well, are you dead yet? And I'm like, no, but this is not fun. Okay. And it's my inner child freaking out, right? Understandably. And so I said, and then it came those words, in the name of the I am that I am, and the Christ consciousness that I am, go. So I was setting a boundary with this part of me that wanted to scare me to the point where I couldn't be my full self. And then it stopped. So 3 days of that crazy stopped. I mean, I did have other heart painful things after that.
Mm-hmm.
But he was trying to say, you can always call on me. I'm always here. But it's time for you to know that you are that empowered. You are that Christed being. You are that, wise one. And to use your voice and claim it. And it's a process. You can't do it overnight, and that's just one way to do it, right?
Yeah. And claiming our voice. I mean, how long? I mean, March is, Women History Month, or I think is what they're calling it, right? And I think how long collectively, just even in the United States, have we been suppressed to be able to shine our light? I mean, barely 100 years ago, we couldn't even vote. That's not that long ago. That's like
Not
our,
that long.
grandmothers or maybe great grandmothers, or I probably for a lot of women, right? It's probably our great grandmothers. They
Yes.
couldn't even vote. They couldn't even own their own property. They couldn't, you had to mold yourself into what was acceptable or be shunned.
And I had that. We had past lives of being ones who obediently followed something. And so the idea, even in that, untangling what is surrendering. You're surrendering to your soul's purpose might look very different than maybe you did that as a nun or something, or a monk in another lifetime, right? And so we're learning new ways of breaking out of that. And it might be deeply uncomfortable because like I've had as a mother going, well, being a mother looks like this, you
Mm.
know. And I lived a more traditional mom role, which I think was the only one I could do in this time. But now I'm opening up to this other part of me that's shining more, my own, soul. And it's going, maybe we could break out what that looks like a little bit more. And I think we're going to continue to break out of what something looks like. But we have to be okay with practicing our voice and know that we're not going to please everyone when we do it, because you're going to come against resistance to other people who are used to a pattern,
Mhm.
right? There's no judgment of that, but it can be very lonely if you're pioneering that, right? So I speak to all those who are in our tribe. Debbie's in my tribe. When you're really scared to pioneer and break out of something, you will go through some really big challenges, until you find more of a plateau where the speaking of it won't feel like you're going to die.
Mhm.
And when you meet that in yourself, then you can firmly say no without the emotional trauma behind it, right? So these are opportunities to clear the trauma, to help the inner child integrate, to help find out what's blind to our in our shadow that we don't even know, that our octopus tendrils are saying yes to, and we're like, I don't know, I attracted that, but it was a part of us that just needed to heal. And then what happens is, and so on the arc line of it, how I see it is, then when you say no, there will be just this calm assuredness that doesn't allow anything to stop you, you know, from your path. That doesn't mean you still won't have some ups and downs or things to navigate, but I think there'll be more grace and ease that flows through you because more of you
Mhm.
is showing up. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm sure everybody here listening, I know I myself, I can, like the whole grace and ease of listening to yourself, being able to speak up, holding those boundaries, or when you have gone too fast with something, that course correction, instead of doing something for a month or years upon years upon years, it might take you a year to break through, but you do it. I've witnessed that in my own life where I've like not done it, but the pattern to self-correct for myself, the pattern to believe, to be calm, knowing that I know through every decision that there's always another decision,
Right.
and allowing myself to show up, uh, our voices, because I think collectively too, with saying the yes or saying the no or being able to listen, we now can. We're carrying, I think, every ancestor with us as a
Yes.
female that didn't have that opportunity to share. I I think I've shared, I'm like in my mid 50s. Think I tell everybody every time, but what's really interesting is growing up, my grandmother, was born, I think, in the 30s. And so when she, in her 40s, she became a widow, a young widow, and she did not know how to drive.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to drive. Uh, Credit cards weren't really a big thing back then, but she had no credit, right? They had owned a house. My grandparents had owned a house. The house wasn't in her name.
Yeah.
This isn't that long ago. This is the 70s. So I think all of us of a certain generation, whether they grew up in the 70s or the 80s or even the 90s, of looking at how many ways that even if we could have listened to ourselves, that as we make those decisions to stop and pause, we're also making them for those generations.
Exactly. And I don't have a granddaughter yet. I have a son, but I know that every time that I really ground this in me, I will be able to speak wisdom in a way to my granddaughter that I couldn't have before. So that always kind of,
Mhm.
spurs me on because I feel like, or even anyone in the world that you touch, like like you talked about earlier in the supermarket, you talk to someone you have a connection with, you know, we're all energy. We have an imprint. So every time we heal something in us, every time we said, I'm going to go into that cocoon, when it looks like nothing's going on in the world of the patriarchal or the world of you got to do, force things to happen. I am stitching something together that's going to help everyone I talk to down the road just by being in my presence. With me not even saying
Mhm.
anything sometimes. I can speak with just my energy. People
Mhm.
will feel, you know that. Sometimes you're like, I don't know why I like that person. They don't say anything, but they have done their inner work. They have
Yes.
grounded something. That is what we're going to do as in the divine feminine, coming from our hearts. We are going to influence each other that way, but also with our voices, right?
Mhm.
I want to come back to Archangel Michael because um, this heart unraveling I'm still doing, right? And so there's still some boundaries. Like as I speak my no, there's still some energy behind them, And I think sometimes women are angry, and they're going through that phase of anger. But sometimes you can be addicted to the anger too. And I'm not judging where you're at with this because I think it's a process. But um, and only you know, right? But for me, there was a point where Michael was like, "Okay, I know I told you to like take over, Tina, but guess what? I am the guy who protects the heart." And I actually have a painting of Archangel Michael that I did that has the sword right in front of the heart. It's interesting. I didn't even know there was a heart in there until someone pointed it out to me. That's how it is when you're intuitive and paint, and you don't know until later. But he's like, I got your heart. I'm going to protect your heart. You might need to like back off some of your no in some ways to be more soft in your heart. And this is not saying to um, deny your body, your wisdom, anything that's bad for, none of that, right? We're not, again, you're not giving up something of yourself or sacrificing. And that's not what he was talking about. He was talking about you might need to relax this way that you've protected yourself. I got that part. You can just soften more into your heart, and then the words that come will have a different kind of impact. Is what I think he was trying to tell me.
Mm.
And I'm learning it. I'm in that process of still learning that because I'm still in my cocoon with that piece. But I feel like there's truth there that um, I don't want to resist or fight things that I don't need to fight.
Mm.
Does that make sense? And I
Yes.
was Miss Injustice. This is wrong, kind of person. And some people are needing to be that in this world. So I don't want to take that because that might be your role right now. But for me, I feel like I did not allow the divine to show me all these wonderful abundant options and creative options. So it's part of the creativity too, right?
Mhm.
I was sabotaging it by my you know my boundary, my little shell, and I'm like, okay, I'll take this this vest off of that maybe I don't need. That doesn't mean you know who can honor you when you're vulnerable. You only let them in, right? But I realized that, yeah, maybe I can soften that one a little bit more. I'll let Michael do that. And I say, help me. It's always good to ask for help from your
Mhm.
spirit team. Help me, angels. I don't know how to do this, but I'd like to be here. And I've had that my whole life where I wanted to forgive someone and I could only do so much in that moment. And I said, please help me be the one who can get there with my
Mhm.
forgiveness. But I'm not going to push or force something because we are multiple layered beings. And so we do with grace what we can in the moment.
Yeah, I do that as well. I for asking for help. My process looks a little different, but it is about I release it to God. And um
I just got my
I
goosebumps all up and down my leg
I
when you said that.
yeah, so I release it to God. And the funny thing is pop culture, right? Or I guess this is country, but Carrie Underwood song, Jesus Take the Wheel. Oh, I
Yeah.
just got full on
Oh, I
goosebumps,
got it.
right?
Me too. It's up
Oh my
down.
gosh. Like if
Woo!
you hear me playing that song, I've reached the where I'm like, I can't I need to let this go. I saw her in concert, and I had my mom was with me, my niece was with me, uh two friends that I'd known since one since middle school, one in high school, and we went, and it was this really not a normal collective of people that I would have gone to a concert. It was Carrie Underwood, and I love her music, but I that song came on, and I don't even know if anybody else was in the room, right? I think, luckily that's the beauty, I think, of concerts, is that you can, that sound, right, that vibration, the energy of everybody pouring into and releasing, and
Yes,
it just was so powerful. And that song has really almost become my own personal anthem or theme of
yeah,
when I need to just release it. I can't do it by
right.
myself. Release it up and watch what shows up.
Yes,
Watch what is invited in, what I'm asked to go do, to take those steps. Listening, pause now and listen to my body, like what you're talking about with the
yeah.
yeses and the nos. And I think I've, and learning to trust them, right? Learning to trust what we do get.
And you might have had to have a protective shell to survive when you were younger. But the moment that you don't need it anymore, it will be very uncomfortable. And that's your new muscle that's forming. It's a new normal. But when you let go, then you start learning how to move with flow. And again, like I said, I'm still learning all this, but I
Mhm.
know that when that woman sings that song, she's doing sound healing. And for all those people to find whatever their spirit team that they call upon to help them to relax and to smooth to move into what wants to come.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
It is, and usually I don't talk too much about, I mean, God and Jesus, because I'm spiritual, right? But God and Jesus are definitely my part of my spiritual team. And
Yes.
so I don't know if sometimes people have that misconception that they're not. Um, I actually had to figure that out for myself. Like, how could I have been raised this certain way with God and Jesus? But you know what? They never left me. I just brought in more players,
I,
right?
I
Like there's
yeah,
other
that's
people on
how it
my
is.
basketball team,
You just have a
right?
big team. That's
Yeah,
all.
I have a
And
big team.
Jesus led me to the yoga. He actually led me. He goes, "You need to teach this. You need to learn this." And he actually told me um, that the Christ consciousness is the same as the Buddha consciousness. There's Christ consciousness in a lot of yoga. Yoga masters have held the Christ consciousness, as well, and they are holding the essence of such transformative love. That's what that is. And Jesus is one of many who have done that, and we are the next. We are the second coming of that, right? But um, it's not the only way to get there. Mystics can take so many forms, right, to do that.
Yes.
Um, but Jesus had said to me that the heart centered, divine feminine, Christ opening of the heart, the sacred heart, is half of what I'm here to do. And the other half is to teach this yoga, which is much more focusing of certain parts of the physical and mental bodies to release those shadow places that are really hard to get to. So they're very different in their approach, but together with the divine feminine, divine mother, loving Mother Earth, loving part, um, it can help bring balance
Yeah.
to the world. So
Well, I think it's beautiful that your approach to helping, people get in touch with themselves, their own creativity, finding their own truth of what's them, opening up their throat chakra to be able to stand in their own truth, what works for them, but to be able to use the combination of the sound healing, the yoga, the creativeness with the collages of really all these different perspectives of methods to be able to bring it out so
Yes,
that if it hides away, it's not coming through in the yoga, it's not coming through, with then it's able to then show itself
exactly.
through other ways, right?
Exactly. So collage by collage classes, a lot of times, we'll find the nugget, right? And sometimes you don't know what that inner guidance is. But when we do the collage, we're allowing our bodies, these are all embodiment practices, right? The
Mm-hmm.
body starts finding the images based on your higher conscious self doing it, right? And then they'll see the message from their own inner guidance. It's not what I'm telling them, right? It's what they see that's coming from them. And that's what makes it really special because it's like they're giving themselves this beautiful Hallmark card of their
Mm-hmm.
own, right? And they get to look at it and remind themselves, oh, I need to slow down, right? You might have one thing you're like, you're still frenzied, you're feeling anxious, you're whatever because so much energy is coming at you, and then you look at your collage and you're like, oh, I just need to slow down.
Right.
So it's just one of many ways
Mm-hmm.
to help us bring us back in. And um, and you know what your ways that work are. And then that's the whole point. I want people to be able to go, you know what? This is what works for me now. I'm doing this for the last year, and then you might not need it after a year. But it's part of your journey. It's part of your listening to yourself. And the more you develop that, then you can listen better to others. So the whole point is that the gut and goosebumps class, this is great because in our relationships with one another, as we are learning how to practice, we
Mm-hmm.
can say, you know what, I know this is true for me. And then you own it without a lot of like, something bad's going to happen to me, I'm going to die. You're like, this is just true for me right now, but I'm so glad that you wanted to invite me to do this, but I need to listen to this. And so it becomes this soft way of sharing with others what your inner rhythm looks like, which is a beautiful thing to
Mm-hmm.
share. And then it's a seed that plants to someone else that maybe they can begin that process for themselves as well.
Yeah, I love that. The other thing that came to me was that all of these practices are more on the physical side. And I think when people are doing healing work, they could or they could not, realize that, yeah, it's our emotional, it's our physical, it's our spiritual, but it's physical. Like our body remembers certain things and they get stuck, like whether it was a trauma or an
Yeah.
experience, they can get stuck in our body, can block our creativities, and it can create, dis-ease within the body and however that's going to show up. And so I love that, though they're all unique and beautiful ways of coming together, they're also all physical to help unstick
Yes.
something that is stuck inside the body and to be able to bring it forward.
Definitely. The body, like a good massage when you're doing this kind of work or some
Mhm.
kind of, body work, any kind of working out and sometimes very gentle stretches. But the body's often said to me, I don't want to hold this trauma, but I did because I had to, because you weren't ready to handle it when you were little or whenever some trauma happened.
Mhm.
But the minute you're ready and you feel that vulnerable again, just remember you are strong enough. Your body's actually saying, it's time. Like, I don't have to hold this anymore for you. This is great. You did so much inner work, and now we might have to feel some of the feelings around it, but you don't have to like be flooded by this, right? Anymore. So the body goes, I'm not intent. My job is not to hold trauma.
Ooh, that
It,
really, really is a strong thing. I think that's really powerful. What you said was that holding, I held on to it because you weren't ready.
yeah. But I think the more we develop this inner muscle of empowerment, what
Mhm.
happens is you'll just start weeping when something happens, and it will be like this. I just need to feel this. And it won't be this, all of the patterns and the judging won't be involved. You'll just be like, my body needs to feel this. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the body's like, we just need to get this out in the moment as it's happening. I had read that once before, and it really comes back to me now. It's true. But if you were terrified, I mean, I have seen some traumatic things as a child, and I would have died. There's no question. If I had fully felt the impact of what was happening, I would have died because I was that sensitive. And to be that strong, to be able to feel the feelings around something that would have killed you before, damn, that's amazing. Sorry
Mm-hmm.
to say
It
that.
is.
It's
It is
really,
amazing.
it shows that you're strong enough to do that and to allow your body to do what it's good at.
Yes. And I think we're all strong enough. We just have to claim it.
Yes.
I am strong enough.
It's just the fear that says you can't. Once you meet that, then you can do anything. And that doesn't mean you won't have moments of fear. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I have found too, as I've, had so much life like we all have lately. And is that when emotions come up, my emotions show through tears. Like I probably can cry faster than anybody knows, it seems like. But hey, I've claimed it, right? Like that is my superpower, that
Yes.
level of vulnerability. It's been there. I own it. I've been owning it for a long time now. And but what I've realized is that it makes other people comfortable. They want to fix it. They don't want you to cry.
Right. And that
And
might
mhm,
that's where you might be like, these might not be my people for a while.
mhm.
Like I might not be able to just be my full self with them because you want to be your full self, you know. And that's not a judgment of them. Um, but I think it's important to know the different circles that you might be a part of.
Mhm.
And because where your body will know even that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who are my people right now?
Mhm.
I can really just like to be around my authentic self.
Yes. And people I have found to be true is that when you put yourself out there, like I didn't know you a year ago when I started my podcast, and you're not the first person I've met, right? Like because of really standing in my truth, being my own truth, being vulnerable, putting it out there, how not only how spiritual I really was this whole time, but and my beliefs that are out there every day now with an interview, but
Yeah.
owning it. And then what's happened, it has opened its gateway to more of my people like
Yes.
you, Tina, like more
Hey,
and
I'm so
more. Like
grateful.
it's just I just so
I'm
grateful. So
grateful you risked so I could meet you.
yeah, right. Like, and I want to encourage everybody, right? Like just to it's not always easy. I think we'll all agree, everybody will agree with it's not always easy getting there. But every small step to get there, to shine your light, to voice who you are, be yourself. Don't, as Marianne Williams says, don't dim your own light for
Yeah.
somebody else. Because when you shine your light, it allows somebody else to shine their light.
Shine on, baby.
Right? Come on, ladies, shine your light, damn it. Like
Woo!
scream it from a top, like a mountaintop or in your car. I mean, own it. Own it. It's so powerful. Somebody is waiting. You know, I needed Tina to shine her light before we could connect.
I had guidance from a friend of mine who did a reading with me, and she's like, your soulmate people are out there, but you have to like put yourself it's like I had to, even though I had my cocoon phases, right? I had to be trusting of the moments where I had to put myself out there
Mm-hmm.
and shine and not hesitate my radiant light, heart light, and because then I will meet those I'm supposed to meet. I know that before this lifetime, we said we were going to meet up with certain people. And I
Mhm.
know, Debbie, you're one of them. And,
Yay,
you know,
one
and,
of
and
mine.
isn't that an awesome thing? And
Yes.
I always heard that the best is saved for last, like my angels have said, meaning that all this inner work you do, oh my God, you're just going to party at the end. It's just going to be so much fun. You're going to have these awesome connections. You're going to keep meeting people. You're going to support each other. And you're also going to send love to those who might not be ready for your light. You can always send love to them, even if there's not, it just doesn't jive, right?
Mhm.
On a heart level, you can always send love to someone, even if on a human level you can't communicate. That's always there.
Yes. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. There's always the ability to send the love and find find where you can shine your light, where you can really speak your truth. And I want to use this time, Tina, to really highlight if somebody's interested in joining your Guts and Goosebump workshop, that powerful work that you're doing. How can they reach you? And if you want to share a little bit about that program, even that would be wonderful.
Well, you can look at my website, which is just myname.com, which I think you will have that information, yes, as
Mm-hmm.
part of the podcast. TinaKaragulian.com shows an upcoming events about this class and some of the different weekly themes that we're going to look at, your yes and no body clues, the nuances of those yeses and nos, you know, as we go deeper and look at them as the second week. And then entanglements, yes, no entanglements, where many of us are empaths. We go into overload and it might not be us, right? So to help healing that so that then we can listen to what is our wisdom, right? Underneath all of that, right?
Yeah.
Or is it your inner child that is in that I'm going to die feeling, right? That's another yes and no entanglement where we're going to help the part of us undo it and feel our feelings, right? Looking at our blind spots and octopus tendrils in week 5. And then looking at yes and no in relationship with others. Like, what does my body say when I'm with someone else that I want to grow with, you know? And it might not be easy. And how do we communicate some of those now that we practiced it with others that we want to cultivate more intimacy with, you know? And then testing the new muscle, week 7, and maybe looking at where somebody is, we get tested, right?
Of course. Yes.
To really say, did you really get that muscle down dirty in you? Is it grounded enough? Because we're just making sure, like, are you really going to say no to this? You know,
Yeah. I call them echoes too, right? Like you'll
echoes,
have something come up in your life and it's an echo.
right? And it's just reinforcing that you develop this new muscle and that you're solidifying your new truth, right, in some way. So we're going to talk about that. And then the final week, we'll have inviting more abundant yeses and do a hell yes collage. So we'll do lots of different things, and I'll know the day before. Maybe we'll throw in a yoga meditation here to help with some of that week's themes. We'll do some tapping to help release maybe some belief systems that are in our blind spots, that kind of thing. So
Oh,
that's starting next next Sunday, um, March 6th, and it's 4 to 6 p.m. Central Time. So you might want to adjust that. And it's on my website, and it'll be with your information. And anything else that you might want to participate in with me is on my website. I have a beach retreat in Port Aransas, Texas for women, April 6th to 10th. So we can do all of this stuff in person. And we're going to do a little bit of gut and goosebumps one day during that retreat as well.
oh, that just sounds so good. I want to go to Texas. I don't know if I can do it in the next week, but it's
You're
it
always
just sounds
welcome.
so
We're
powerful. I
going to
have
call
family in
those
Texas,
whales
so
and dolphins, FYI,
right.
because Mother Ocean will help us move a lot when we do these beach retreats. So
Oh, I'm looking forward to having people reach out to you, Tina,
Thank you
and
so much, Debbie.
connect with you. And this has just been just beautiful. And I'm so glad that our spirit teams came and joined us.
Thank
And
you to your spirit team and to mine, and for all of our goosebumping together that's been happening.
right. Yeah. I love it.
I was just imagining all of the angels having goosebumps and all of your guides and mine dancing,
Right.
and
Mine are
they're all
dancing
happy.
and they do fist bumps a lot. And, I like to do
Woo!
the bump, so they're doing, I have no rhythm, but that's okay. They don't either.
We do
That's
us,
fun,
right?
right? We're
It's
doing
our
us.
rhythm. Boo,
That's
boo,
right.
boo. Thank
That's
you so
right. So
much.
thanks, Tina.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.